I feel like you look at the education system right now,
Yeah.
and this might be controversial, but I feel like they would look at someone like you who's saying, I want to start a school that teaches kids about finances and entrepreneurship and real estate and being independent. And they would say, yeah, we got to this guy is not the kind of guy we want out there, because I feel like the education system is set so it's creating employees that will go out and find a job for $50,000-$60,000 a year. And then you retire with a 401k that's worth nothing.
Yeah.
And you end up in retirement broke.
Yeah.
Struggling.
Yeah.
And you're just hoping that your kids do better. But what do most people do? They put their kids down the same path. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Ultimate Ambitions. And today I am so excited to have Albert, and I'm gonna say your name, but I want you to pronounce it. Albert Preciado.
Yeah, that's fine. Perfect.
Here. Incredible.
You must be like part Latino or something.
Yeah. Well, when you have a name like Suresh Madhavan, you go through life with people butchering it. So I always am very cognizant of make sure, I say people's name right. And I always ask them. That's one thing I say when I meet people. And and it also helps you remember their name. Yeah. So I have them repeat it. And so exciting, because I know that you guys are going to get a lot of great, make sure you have a notepad, because you're going to learn a lot today, and there's going to be a lot of gems here. I already know it just from our talk prior to coming on here. So tell me a little bit about yourself from the standpoint, where were you born?
So I was born here in LA, but I was made in Mexico, and then they crossed the border, and I was delivered here.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I always tell people. I'm very Mexican, and so Mexican that my parents I didn't learn English till I was 6. So when I started going to elementary school, that's how I was forced to learn English. And my parents, they wanted to come here to get a better future. So I'm a very proud Mexican, right? But I'm a very proud American, because America gave me the opportunity to go after my dreams.
Yeah, yeah. And that's something that today, with a lot of what's going on, there's a lot of people who have a negative view of America for a lot of different reasons. But someone who, I have a mother who came here from a foreign country and brought me here for a better life, because she felt like where she was, they're not going to have the opportunity. You're in a similar situation. How do you feel about some of that sentiment right now about America and how it is for getting ahead and treatment of certain people? What's your stance on that?
Well, I feel that America is going through a lot of trouble right now, problems, and it's getting negative attention. And with the president and what's going on and politics and all that stuff. But I feel like as me and you and us, we should do our best to help America become America again. Because if it weren't for America, I wouldn't have the life that I have for my family. I have 3 little girls. And I think that entrepreneurs are going to change this world. They're going to save this world. So I'm big on entrepreneurs. I like business. That's my passion. Starting businesses, because that's the most beautiful thing. You employ people. You give people jobs. You help the country. You help your state. And I love California. I've always lived here. I was born here in LA. So I feel that the more we can get out, things like doing podcasts like this and getting information out, the more we can help the entrepreneurs out there and just the world in general, because entrepreneurs do create jobs for people here in America. And there's not a lot of information like this, because when I was taught, go to school, go to college, get a degree, and get a little salary of $50K, $60K, and then that's it. And that's what success meant to my parents, because they didn't know any better. And in Mexico, you don't make that kind of money. So you come here, you get a degree. And I just didn't like school. I never wanted to be average. And I knew that the only way to be rich was to become a doctor or become an attorney. And I just hated school. The only subject that I liked was math. So that's what that's where I was kind of confused. Why am I doing all this? And that's what led to me just being a college dropout and figuring out how to make money by getting into sales and getting into business.
So take me through the point, because I had a point in my having
Yeah.
an Asian mother. It was, if you didn't become a doctor, a lawyer, or engineer, you were worthless.
Yeah.
And so when it got to the point where I was gonna go into a field, and I started out going to school for medicine, but when I decided to go into a field outside of medicine, my mom essentially wanted to disown me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is born from, they so passionately want you to be successful that they fear that if you go into any of these things that aren't doctor, lawyer, they fear that you might suffer. You might, you might have pain, you financial, and they don't want you to suffer. So, hey, just go become a doctor. We know you're going to make a lot of money, and you'll be comfortable, and you won't suffer, and, they'll be happy for you.
Mm-hmm.
So at what point did you say, okay, that I'm not going to do that? And was that hard for you to present that to your parents because of what they had to go through?
Yeah, it was really hard because my mom and my dad, they wanted me to get a college degree. But they almost didn't want me to become, they didn't want me to become a doctor or an attorney because it was really hard and long, and it was, they knew it was a long shot.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to play for the Lakers. So I had a whole plan that I was going to be the point guard, and I was going to be the point guard, and I was going to play with Kobe.
Yeah.
So I was going to be I was going to lead the assist and assisting him, and because we're 4 years apart.
Okay.
So I always had that dream, right?
Yeah.
And I would go to all the games. I would go to before Kobe became professional, he used to play at Long Beach at the Pyramid.
Okay.
And I used to go see him because I was a big Kobe fan before he even became Kobe. So before people knew Kobe, I knew Kobe.
Yeah.
So I already had the whole plan, but my parents were like, that's a long shot. So then in school, they were like, go to school, get a degree, but don't be a doctor or a lawyer because that's a long shot. That's just too much going to school. It's going to be expensive, and you're going to get loans so they wanted me just to get a degree so that I can get a decent job.
Okay.
But I didn't want that because my dad, he took me to paint because he was a painter.
Uh-huh.
So he started taking me to paint homes when I was 6. That messed me up. I was going to say the F word, but I'll keep it clean for the youngsters. So that messed me up because I saw Ferraris and mansions, and I asked my dad, hey, Dad, how come you don't have this? How come we don't drive this? How come we live in the ghetto where they're shooting and drug dealing and stabbing people, and we can't, we always have to go through the alley where there's no parking, and it was that kind of neighborhood. So I said, why do you have this big van? Which was a painting van. All painters have big vans and trucks. Why don't you have a red Ferrari right there and a big mansion like this? And he said, it's not for us. So I asked him and I challenged him, well, why not? And he said, because it's not for us. We're not meant to have this. And I said, well, how can we have this? And he said, well, if you work really hard and you never quit, then maybe you'll make it happen. And I promised my dad that day, one day I'm going to be really successful and I'm going to help a lot of people and I'm going to show them how to do this. So that's when it all started. And I promised him I'm going to live in Beverly Hills. I'm going to have a Ferrari. And then, because we used to paint in Beverly Hills and Bel Air, just all those areas.
Yeah.
So that messed me up, and I was trying to figure out, how can I do this? I can't do this by getting a college degree.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to really be a doctor or a lawyer, and not maybe just a lawyer or a doctor. I'm going to have to own a facility, a lawyer, an attorney business, or a hospital.
Yeah.
And then employ all these doctors to make the millions to actually be a multi-millionaire or more. So that's when I started thinking, and I started seeing all the kids I grew up with, all my family members, they were all getting degrees. And I was a 1.8 GPA middle school student, ESL. I started as an ESL student, special ed student, and then I kept on seeing all these kids get their college degrees and they would get business degrees, marketing degrees, English degrees. I don't know what the purpose of an English degree is, but you know English, but you're getting an English degree. You're in America, so it was just a bunch of weird degrees that I just didn't see how that was going to make them rich. So one day, I'm hungover. I'm in IHOP with my buddies, and I see. I'm young. I'm about 18, 19 years old, and I see these this guy that shows up there. Then I see him again, and then I keep just running into these stories, and I keep asking them, what are you guys doing? What do you do? They have a Rolex watch, and they're always with hot girls. and they're also hungover. So they're hungover, but the difference is I'm hungover broke, and they're hungover young, but they have a hot girl and they have a Beamer or a Benz. Okay. And I'm like, what are these guys doing? Yeah. And then that's when they told me I do real estate. And I'm like, real estate? And I asked them, so what do you have to do for real estate? Because that's the life I want. I want the hot girl hungover, and I want the nice car and the Rolex. Like, what are you guys doing? And he says, well, we do real estate, and you only need to pass one test, and then you could do real estate. It takes about 3 months. So and I'm like, yeah.
Were they investors or were they real estate agents?
Realtors.
They were realtors.
Yeah, realtors.
Okay.
Realtors. And then that's when I went back home and I told my mom, hey, Mom, it doesn't make any sense to go to school. I told you I was right. Like, you just get a license for real estate and you can make millions. Like, these people are millionaires, and they're real estate agents, and they're young. And then that was a whole new chapter of my life, because that's the day that I decided to just stop school, drop out of college, and I just decided I'm going to get a real estate license, and I'm going to go full on real estate.
No kidding.
And then school was like, I just didn't want to do anything with school.
I want to get back to that, but let me ask you, because there's a lot of people that are younger listening to this. What is your take currently with the American university college system? Do you think it's something that kids should do and, get that degree, whether they go into that field that they want, or is it something that you would say, you know what, if you don't want to go to college, you don't want to go to college? But then there's people on the side who are like, I know some people who are, at our level, and they are telling their kids, listen, you don't have to go to college. Mm-hmm. In fact, I don't want you to go. I want you to kind of, do this. So what's your stance on that?
Well, I'm going to be very controversial with this because I'm totally against school. Uh-huh. And especially if they're going to tell me, like, hey, you're going to send your kids to school, you're going to have to vaccinate them like 18, 20 times. That makes me even totally against school. So, like, our 3 kids are not vaccinated. Mm-hmm. And I have a 6-year-old. Her name is Italia. I named her after a Ferrari. She's a 458 Italia. Yeah, and then I have the 3-year-old Berlin, who was named after the Berlinetta Ferrari. She's 3. And then I have the 6-month-old, and she happened to be the cheaper Ferrari, the California. So her name is Callie. And so we stopped. Our girls are very smart. Mm-hmm. They have 0 vaccines, including the oldest one, that's Italia. She's going to be 7 in a month or 2. And she's so smart. So what we did is we hired a private teacher, mm-hmm. and she comes to our home, and we live in Bel Air. She comes to our home, and then she teaches them all the credit. They're getting all the credits they need, mm-hmm. and they're going to be able to. And they told us that our bigger one, because she's the only one going to school. Even Berlin, who's 3, mm-hmm. started school in advance. Since we already have the teacher there, she's getting taught like more advanced things. So they're learning a lot, and they were telling us how more advanced they are. So they're gonna finish school like way faster. So I think that's great, because they'll get ahead. And I want to teach, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody's watching this and they're like, hey, Albert, you're wrong. Like, you should vaccinate your kids and you should send them to school, and they got to do it that way. Maybe I am wrong. I'm not saying I'm always right and you got to do things your way. But if somebody's gonna mess up my kids, I want to make sure that I'm the one that messes them up, not other people. Yep. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna mess them up my way. Yeah. And I'm going to teach them what worked for me. So they're going to have their teacher come and they're going to learn the fundamentals, the basics. They just need to learn how to add, subtract, multiply, divide. That's it. And as long as they know how to speak and read, that's all I need them to learn. So I want to teach our kids. And I wish that, and one of my dreams, though, by the way, is starting a kids school, mm-hmm. where it's for kids that are entrepreneurs, so that they learn entrepreneurship young. I want to teach them finances. I want to teach them how to invest in real estate. I want to teach them taxes young. I want to teach them marketing, sales. I want to teach them like everything that changed my life. Yeah. And my daughters, I already mentor them in marketing. I teach them sales. I'm like, you got to sell. When they ask me for things, I'm like, okay, well, you got to sell. You got to close me, sell me on it. And I give them a hard time. So they're becoming master closers. Like my little one, Berlin, mm-hmm. she's a master communicator. Like, she'll sell you anything. And that's what I believe in with the school system. Like, there's also people with different dreams. I'm not saying everybody has to do this. Like, if you want to be average and you want to make $60K all your life and maybe get a few increases, then good, do it. If you want to be a doctor, go to school. If you want to be an attorney, go to school.
Yeah.
But if you want to start a business, if you want to get into the sales game, if you want to work for yourself, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to do things like that, if you want to be rich, young, if you want to figure that out, then that's what I recommend people to do. Like there's books that are really good, like Rich Dad, Poor Dad was one of the books that changed my life. There's a really good book by Ray Dalio, Principles. There's a Blue Ocean Strategy, really good marketing book. So there's a lot of great books that will teach you way more than I learned ever in school.
Yep. I'm with you on the education standpoint because I feel like the education system is flawed. You have kids getting degrees and they're choosing a degree, they're not choosing a profession. Yeah. Like if you're going to go to school, decide on what you want to be and then get a degree that aligns with that. But then I have so many people who their kids, they're going to school and I say, hey, what's their major? Yeah. They're like, history or art or English. Yeah. Like, oh, so what do they want to do with that degree? Well, they don't know. Well, there has to be a job at the end of that journey. Yeah. Otherwise, they just wasted $50,000 a year. And then what happens? They graduate, they can't get a job with that degree. And now they're milling around, they're floating around. And, what are they looking to do? Yeah. I feel like you look at the education system right now. Yeah. And this might be controversial, but I feel like they would look at someone like you who's saying, I want to start a school that teaches kids about finances and entrepreneurship and real estate and being independent. And they would say, yeah, we got to this guy is not the kind of guy we want out there, because I feel like the education system is set so it's creating employees that will go out and find a job for $50,000, $60,000 a year. And then you retire with a 401k that's worth nothing. Yeah. And you end up in retirement broke, struggling. Yeah. And you're just hoping that your kids do better. But what do most people do? They put their kids down the same path. Yeah. And, 401ks were created as a government tax code. And really they're there to keep you broke. Yeah. And just perpetuate tax revenue for the government. So we know, based on what we've been through, that there's so much more that they could teach kids in school that would make them better adults, more productive adults, and giving back to society. Why do you think it is that they don't teach children this in schools?
Yeah, I think you answered it in the beginning part, that the Matrix wants to control them. And what do I mean by that? They want to keep people thinking small, that are going to be the ones doing all the work, that are going to be the ones taking those jobs that nobody wants to take. So they're almost tricked and limited. And so that's what I'm there to save them from that.
Yeah. And to me, I feel like growing up, there were very little resources that I saw like that. Yeah. But then thankfully at a pretty early stage, I discovered Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah, yeah. And I read this book. I'm like, oh, this guy is saying stuff that no one else is saying. Yeah. And I was like, wow, this is different. Yeah. This is unique. And there were people I shared that book with that their immediate assessment was like, bro, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. That's not you. Bro, you just got to go to college, get a degree, you get hired by a good company. And I was like, no, man, I don't think that's it. I think this guy's onto something. Yeah. And talking about creating passive income sources and, investing in real estate. And I remember reading through that and I was like, why wouldn't we read this in school? We were reading books in school that I don't even remember anything about them. And I knew they weren't bringing any value to my life. Yeah. They weren't going to help me down the road. So I think you're right. I think there's enough people now that know about resources like that if kids are graduating high school, they don't know anything about savings, they don't know anything about investing, and they're just being pushed into a college platform where they're just going to learn more stuff that is not going to help them in life. Yeah, you're doing a disservice, but it's being perpetuated. So it's very bizarre. Yeah. Thankfully, I was able to get a little taste of that early on, and it helped shift my paradigm. So we were talking earlier. You got into real estate and so you got your real estate license. But I heard you say something earlier when we were talking earlier about, and I want to expand on this, about you starting to buy homes, which is something I did. I was in my early 20s. I bought homes in a very depressed area because all I could afford. Yeah. And they were single family homes. They were like $20,000, a bad area. It was actually the area that was #1 for murder in the country at the time.
Yeah.
But I knew that was the spot it was waterfront, so it was in a place called Camden, New Jersey. Those of you who know Camden. And started buying one and then another and another. And it sounds like you had a similar situation. So tell me, how did you entree into that point where you said, these guys are making good money? How did you get to the stage where you actually started buying properties yourself?
I invested into mentorship. So a mentor told me, don't make the mistake of buying one home, buy multi-units. And then I've been in real estate and mortgage as a broker since I was 19. So I've been in this industry for 21 years. So a lot of people don't realize that. Like they see the Bel Air home, they see the private jets, the Ferraris, the Rolls Royces. They see all the businesses. Like all our businesses combined made $30 million last year combined, and it's all me. I didn't raise any money. I don't owe anybody any money. It's just me and my wife, hard work, figuring that out. And I learned how to start a business on Google. I searched it. So people see that, but people don't see that I'm 40. So I've been in this industry 21 years. So a mentor back then, he said, Albert, don't make the mistake you made in 2008 when you bought single family homes. And then when the market, when we had that big recession in 2008, the tenants stopped paying you the rent. So now that huge rent wasn't coming in and that huge mortgage payment couldn't be made. And now your real estate sales, mortgage sales were gone. People weren't selling homes or selling mortgages back then. It just stopped. And so I struggled and I lost everything. I became homeless. So people don't see that. But then when I recovered from that, because I never quit. For 2 months, I slept in my Ford Explorer with my now wife. And so we were homeless mortgage people and real estate people. She was a realtor. I was a mortgage guy. So we slept 2 months in a Ford Explorer because I didn't want to quit and I didn't want to go back to my parents and tell them, hey, you were right. You said don't get into real estate. That it's dangerous. What if real estate fails? And I didn't want to go back and tell them you guys were right. So we slept in the car and we would sneak into gyms, shower, and we would work from Starbucks. But when I got through that, a mentor said, hey, don't make the same mistake you made back then in 2008. You got to buy multi-units. Don't buy real estate. So I started buying multi-units through a loan called FHA. So I had messed up credit still from 2008. Like I had some collections. And the good thing is FHA loan allows you to have kind of messed up credit.
Yeah.
So I got an FHA loan and I got 3 units. And then my girlfriend at the time was Sil, who was my now wife. And she wanted to marry me so bad. And I was telling her, no, we're not going to get married because once we get married, we only qualify for 1 FHA loan.
That's right.
So like you have to get your FHA property, live in 1 unit, and I'll get mine, live in 1 unit, and that way we can get 2 of them. And so after we got married, she was a very happy lady, and now we have, a beautiful family, healthy family. But it all started with me buying 3 units FHA. She bought 4 units FHA, and then we refinanced, cashed out, bought more. We had to put 25%. So we started buying more 3 units, 4 units, 3 units, 4 units. We got up to 18 properties. And then our business started failing. Our multi-units were doing great.
Okay.
And they went up, they appreciated in value.
Yeah.
And we got a lot of tax write-offs. It was the best investment we ever made, real estate.
You said you started a business.
Yeah.
So what was the business?
So this is when I mentioned my business started failing because in 2013, I started The Mortgage Guy, which is my mortgage brokerage. Now it's called The Mortgage Guys. I added an S, make it plural. So it's more people want to be part of it, girls and guys. So in 2013, I started a business, Mortgage Guy. And then the business, I thought I was going to make more money. I thought my business was going to buy me freedom. So I figured I'm going to be a boss. I'm going to be a boss man. I'm going to make the money and I'm going to work from the beach and it's going to be chill and no problems. Yeah. And then I found out right away, now you got to work 100 times more. Now you get nightmares. You got to battle heart attacks. You get sued for nothing. Yep. Now you're a target. Now you got to pay everybody first, and lastly, if there's any money left, and most of the time there wasn't any money left, so I had to put in my own savings to continue to run this business, and it was a nightmare, and I didn't know about it. I wish a mentor would have told me, hey, this is how you do it, and gave me the blueprint. I didn't, and I just started losing money every month. I was losing money, and then I had to get insurances. Then I had audits, and all these just horrible things started happening. So I don't recommend anybody starting a business. I think it's the most dangerous thing to do, besides being in the Army. Any day you could die. In the Army, you get shot in the head. In business, you get a heart attack and you collapse and you die because it's so much pressure, but people don't understand that. And so what I did is I just started selling the property. And every quarter, I would sell a property to cash out my 200, 300,000 to continue my business. And it was, and my wife was like, what are you doing? I maxed out all my credit cards. I was living paycheck to paycheck. I got a Ferrari as one of my last hopes. And one day I saw Ty Lopez that he had a Lambo, but most important are the books. And I said, well, I need to market because I need to get more business. I'm not recruiting enough sales agents. I'm not making money. I'm losing money every month. Let me get the last pennies that I have and get this Ferrari and market and try to become this influencer, because that's when social media started to kick in. So I got that, and I'm driving a Ferrari. I got an office lease on Sunset Plaza. So I'm telling everybody, because I was making $1 million. So I'm telling everybody, if you want to be a millionaire, you want to drive Ferraris, be on Sunset Plaza, an empty office with just me and like 2 people. And we're just in a little corner. But I'm saying, I'm like casting a vision, and I'm appearing bigger than I am. I'm telling everybody, I'm on Sunset Plaza. I'm Mexican. I have a Ferrari. If you want to make $1 million, want to be a millionaire, come join my company. Come work over here. I'm going to teach you how to do that. So then it started working. I started getting people, and people were coming, and then business was getting better, but at the same time, not good enough. So I was like, man, what am I going to do? So at that point, I saw something that was working. So I started selling properties, but it wasn't working. It went on forever.
Yeah.
And then one day I am at the Fontainebleau. This is 2018, not too long ago. And we're having Driven 2. We paid Grant Cardone. We paid Tim Grover. We paid, we have David Goggins. We have, I just spent so much money, borrowed money, and I started selling tickets. So I got more money, and I was getting money from the ticket sales. And I have this idea, and then I'm like, hey babe, I told my wife, so, hey babe, we're going to sell this property. It's the last property that we have. And I'm telling her, the Fontainebleau, we're at the bar, and I'm telling her, we're going to sell this property. I used all of her savings. So her bank account is like negative pretty much. I maxed out all her credit cards. I maxed out all my credit cards, and she allowed me to use her credit cards, obviously, but I maxed them out.
Yeah.
And she knows all of this.
Yeah.
And I'm telling her, hey, we're going to sell this property. And I'm all acting like tough and like confident, cocky. And I'm like, we're going to get a $26 drink from the Fontainebleau bar. I get one, I get her one. I don't even have any money. And I'm just using money, whatever is left on each credit card. You know, I'm down to the Capital One card, 500 limit, and I have like $80 right there. So I'm acting like a baller right there at the Fontainebleau. And I tell her we're selling this property, and she just starts crying because she knows what's going on. She's like, this is our last one. For how long am I going to believe in you? For how long are we going to keep doing this? Like, this is our last shot. Italia, we have our, she's won. And she's like, what are you doing? Like, you're driving us, like you're killing us. And I tell her, just believe in me one last time. That's all I need. Just believe in me one last time. And that's when we sold that property. And boom, finally, we started making a little bit of money. And from there on, we start growing at 2019, 2020. And then everything starts working out from there.
So you sold that property, and then you said you started making, what was now bringing in the money?
We started having more recruits. We started being more profitable. We started being profitable. And all the hard work started paying off after 5 years in business.
Okay.
It started becoming promising, and then we had that big event, 2018, which was our second Driven, and then Driven 3. And then we started getting also big on the branding. We started creating that Driven brand. I started becoming like an influencer, like the Grant Cardone, but the Mexican Grant Cardone version, the younger version.
Yeah.
And that all helped. And it finally, all the noise I was making, it helped the business, and it helped all the businesses grow from there.
No kidding. So tell me about Driven. What spawned that? What made you say, you know what, I want to have this event. I want to bring in these people to speak.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a motivational thing, right?
Yeah.
You know, we all know about the 10X conference and things like that. So what drove you to say, you know what, I'm going to stop going to these events, and I'm going to stop, watching these, I'm
Yeah.
going to do my own.
Yeah.
Because that's a big move. That's a bold move.
Yeah.
And when did it become profitable for you?
Well, it all started with Grant Cardone because Grant Cardone, he was one of my first business mentors at that level. You always have mentors. Like when you're a kid, your parents are your mentors, and you kind of get more mentors. Then you get your millionaire mentor.
Yeah.
But my first big mentor was Grant Cardone. So Grant Cardone helped me a lot. He taught me a lot of what I know, what I do today. Till this day, I still look at his old videos. So I'll look at videos from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, for not only motivation, but to like remind me, like, man, it's incredible how much you've came in 5 years. Because most people, they overestimate, they exaggerate their 1 year goal.
Yeah.
But they underestimate their 5 year goal. So if you look 5 years ago on the Facebook memories or on Instagram memories, you'll see 5 years ago and you'll be like, damn, 5 years ago I was so broke. I can't believe it. Yeah, right? And you're like, man, I can't believe I used to drive that bucket. I can't believe I was hanging out with those people.
Yeah.
Like those people are not part of my life anymore. And it's incredible. But you gotta have that 5 year plan. It's all right to think big for a year, but 1 year is not going to make a drastic difference, but 5 years will. So like I look back at Grant Cardone, and Grant Cardone, he mentored me. I was there at his first event when he had 35 people in Cancun about 8-9 years ago, and I was Grant Cardone's best mentee. Like if you ask him, Grant Cardone, who was your best mentee, who's been your best mentee, your success story, he'll say Albert Preciado.
And I told him I'm going to ask him.
Yeah,
I'm going
he'll
to
say Albert Preciado. So I learned a lot from Grant.
Yeah.
And at one point we were very close. Like 3 years ago, more or less, or a little bit more. He kind of went his way, I went my way, and it was time for me to grow up and time for me to take it to that next level. So that's where everything started, because I kept asking Grant, hey Grant, I want to speak on stage. I want to speak on stage. I talked to Jared, and I was always trying to get attention because I wanted to like learn and apply the things he taught.
Yeah.
And one time at the second 10X, I told Jared, hey, I know you guys don't have any sponsors, but I want to be a sponsor. Like, I'm your friend. Do it for me. And he was like, no, we're not taking any sponsors. I'm like, come on, I'm going to pay for it. I'll pay big bucks.
Sure.
So I offered him, hey, I just want my face, right? Because they had 2,000 people that event, the second one they made. And at the Diplomat over there in Miami, and not Miami, but I think it's northern Miami, Hollywood, like Hollywood.
Hollywood Aventura.
Yeah. So I told him, hey, just put my picture, put my cell phone and my email. I'm gonna promote that I pay agents 100% commission, because I want 2,000 people here to see that.
Yeah.
And I want to increase my followers. I think I had like 600 followers, and after I left that event, I ended up with 500 followers. I got so many followers by doing that.
Yeah.
And I said, well, how much does it take? And then he went to ask Grant, like, hey, how much would it be to put his to promote him? And they're not doing it. So long story short, he comes back after like 15 minutes of just going back and forth, and he tells me, hey, I'll do it. I'll put your information on top, but it's going to be, I think it was like 40 grand or something like that. And then I tell him, okay, let's do it. And maybe it was a little less than 40 grand. It's been so long.
Yeah.
But it was a big number.
Yeah.
And I said, let's do it. And then he went back and they did it. And I gave him one credit card and I gave him another credit card. And I just said, just split it on both. And he split it. And then my wife, she's like, hey, I told her, hey, can you believe the Cardones put my stuff on the screen? And I'm getting all this attention, and now I'm a celebrity. We had a break. And after Grant, I was the second most popular person in that room. And I had a line of people that wanted to go and meet me and talk to me because of that.
Kidding.
And then she asks me the question that I was trying to avoid, like, hey, so how did he charge you for that? And I'm like, yeah, $40K. And I said, I just put 20 on this card, 20 on this one. And then she's like, what? And I'm like, just trust me, it's a good idea. Wow. And that's how it started. And then after that, I kept asking Grant, I want to be on the stage. And I never got that opportunity. They always said, next year, no, not this year. And I got tired of waiting. And I just said, well, I'm going to create my own stage. So I created Driven. And now we're going on the 7th year of Driven. So we're having our big conference. We have about 2,000 people. And it's November 4th. And this is going to be our 7th conference, Driven conference. And then we also have the business bootcamp, which is smaller. But it's already the 7th year. And it all started because Cardone, and then the previous mentor that I had, they didn't put me on stage, and I just didn't want to wait. I'm like, I'm not going to wait. I got to do it now. So I just created my own event like that.
I love
Yeah.
that. And that should be a lesson to a lot of people, where you have a lot of people who would probably run into that situation and just say, okay, well, I'm just going to keep waiting my turn. I'm going to keep waiting my turn. That my time will come, my day will come. And you just said, you know what? I'm going to create my time.
Yeah.
If they're not going to give it to me, I'm going to create it.
Yeah.
So Driven.
Yeah.
I want everyone to know about the premise of Driven, because I know a lot of people talk about different conferences they go to and different things, but what's unique about Driven, and what was the premise? Like what do you want the message to be when people are like, what is this Driven about?
Yeah. Well, my second mentor after Grant, because I paid Grant a lot of money. Like I've paid him like $250,000 at least in just all his masterminds, his getaways, like everything. I used to take a lot of people there, and then after getting my sales and my marketing right, I was stuck, and then I invested in another mentor by the name of Patrick Bet-David. I don't know if you're familiar with Patrick. Yeah. And I wanted to learn the operations, the systems, the processes, because he ran PHP, a big company with a lot of employees. And Grant and like Ty Lopez, and they were more of influencers, celebrities, like sales coaches and more like that. Not really like a business with a lot of employees back then. And Patrick built a company from scratch, and I knew like I gotta learn the operation side. And so I invested in Patrick, and me and my wife went there. And at the time, like, he was charging very little compared to today. So I got a great deal. I got 4 in-person sessions with Patrick. And this is like 8 years ago. Paid him very little. Yeah. And I got to go to his house, dinners with him, lunches, all included in the mentorship. So I would take trips to Dallas and to go see him when he just moved to Dallas. And it was crazy, life-changing. And then he asked me a question like, who do you want to be, Albert? Who do you want to be? And he's actually over there in Florida too. So if you run into him, tell him Albert said what's up.
You know what's funny?
Yeah.
This is going to hit you really hard.
Yeah.
I'm in Lauderdale at the Ferrari dealership the other day, picking up a car.
Yeah. And
I look next door. His studio is next door to the Ferrari dealership. In Fort Lauderdale. Yeah. So I'm like, I like this guy already because I like where his studio's at. Yeah. So he's down by me, South Florida. Yeah. Amazing place.
Yeah. I still talk to him. Great mentor. So Patrick, I went there, and he asked me, "Who do you want to be, Albert? Do you want to be a national influencer celebrity? Where you're traveling and it's like a small team like Grant Cardone, Ty Lopez, or do you want to be a guy that builds a business that one day sells it for $1 billion?" And I said, right away, I want to build a business that I sell for $1 billion. And he says, okay, I wanted you to say that. I didn't want to steer you a certain way, but I wanted to hear it from you. And he said, okay, let's continue. And then we started going over like the business side, and that's when I got even more into business. I asked him, Patrick, why'd you move to Texas? And he said, well, I have a national business. Texas is right in the middle. I'm an hour and a half, 2 hours away from New York. I'm 2 hours away from Florida. I'm 2 hours away from 2.5 hours from California, and I'm in the middle. And it makes me easy for me to be going. And then I'm like, oh, that makes sense. And then he starts telling me, you know what? You guys have to build the operations. You guys do you have a company manual? Do you have systems? And I'm like, what systems? Like, and you know how Patrick talks. He's like, so Albert and Sil, do you guys have an operations manual? Do you guys have all your processes? And we have no clue. We're like, no. And he's like, okay, I want you to read this book by Ray Dalio, Principles, and then I want you to come back. And then I want you to take your top level executives, your top employees, take them on a getaway for a weekend and work on your operations manual. And then we're like, operation, okay, cool. Let's read the book. So we read the book, come back, and they say, okay, you're going to go on this getaway. And we went on our getaway, and we started discovering like all these positions. The C-suite. What's a C-suite? Oh, there's a CEO, there's a COO, you got the president, you got the CMO, you got all these different positions, CFO, controller. And so we started learning all this, and we're like, oh, wow. So we really didn't know anything about business. And then we started working on that. And then with the sales, the marketing, then we add the training, the operations side, because in order to scale a business, what Patrick told me is you got to be able to take on green people. So in real estate or mortgage or life insurance, when you get a license, and you're young, brand new, you have no experience. How do you train these green people? That's where the money's at. Because if you're just focused on getting the top producers that have been licensed for 10 years, 20 years, they have old habits. They're not coachable. They're entitled. How do you blow up a business? Training the green people that just got licensed. They're the future. So then we start implementing all that. So that's what Driven became, a combination of like Grant Cardone and Patrick Bet-David, where we teach them how to build a brand, because I've done it. I'm not teaching people things that I haven't done. The marketing, the sales, but also the operations, the systems, the processes, the training, and that's how Driven was created. So every year I bring on the experts in their fields. Like I've been mentored by John Maxwell. I've been mentored by Tim Grover. I've been mentored by like Bobby Castro, another one. He sold the company for $1 billion. But I'm always looking for what do I need to know now? So right now my focus is different. But when you get started, you got to learn the business principles, the fundamentals, because I can help any industry blow up.
Yeah. So what would you say now, looking back, if you have someone listening or watching that is entering into the business world, they're like, you know what? Yeah, I know I'm not going the traditional route, college degree, whatever. When someone is looking to start a business, whether it's something they're passionate about, whether they want to, take some products and create it, what would you say is the single most important foundation for them if they're saying, hey, listen, I want to be my own boss and create this and have wealth and time freedom? Starting a business, what's the most important thing?
Courage. It doesn't take money to make money. It takes courage. So just like everybody watching this, I didn't have any money, but I had courage. Like when I got my 3 units FHA, I didn't have the money. My credit was messed up. I had to call and negotiate the collections to remove some of them. I had to get some settlements.
Yep.
I didn't. My FICO wasn't all there. I only had $3,000, but I said, I'll open escrow. And I'm going to risk it. I'm going to risk my $3,000. I'm going to close some deals while in escrow, and that'll give me the 3.5% down payment.
Yep.
When I started a business, same thing. I had $3,000. I didn't know how to start a business. I didn't even want to start a business. So somebody just called me, a lender rep that I work with. Her name was Gina Carr. She called me and she said, "Hey, Albert," because I was always a top producer. I closed deals, but I spend money. I wasn't I had bad habits like everybody else.
Yeah.
And she said, "Why don't you start a company? You're an entrepreneur, you start a company."
Yeah.
And there I go, listening to Gina Carr, and I said, "Well, it's a good idea. Let me do it." I asked my broker boss at the time, "Hey, I want to get a broker's license because one day my dreams to start up my own company." Obviously, he wasn't really interested in helping me become his competitor.
Of course.
So he kind of brushed me off and said, "Don't do it. It's not a good idea." So I said, okay. So then I went home and just Googled it. And that's how I learned. That's how I started my business. I Googled how to start a mortgage company, and then I followed the steps. And I made a lot of mistakes along the way. But it takes courage to create your dreams, not money, not nothing else.
Yeah. Did you at any point, because I talked to different people who kind of took our path, did you at any point have a plan B or an escape route? Or was it like, I'm doing this and...
Never.
I never had a plan B.
No.
That was one thing that people told me, like, well, just in case this doesn't work out, Suresh, just have a little plan B over here. Yeah. And I felt like if I had a plan B, that would be a crutch.
Yeah.
Because it would be my like little safety net. So I'd be like, oh, it's okay if this fails or if it gets too hard.
Yeah.
I got my plan B.
Yeah.
Were you similar?
Absolutely. Like I never had a plan B. I don't have a plan B right now. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's too late to take it back. Like I have a lot of people that I employ, a lot of lives that depend on me. So like there's no plan B.
Yeah. So it's just push through.
Plan A. Like people that have a plan B, they're already making it, and they're making an excuse to fail.
Yeah. And that's why I never wanted to give myself that out, and it's hard. It's hard because it's scary in the beginning. And it's funny, you mentioned settlements. Just for those of you watching, I had to do the same thing.
Yeah. When
you have credit cards maxed out, you have to call the credit card companies and ask them, say, there's like $15,000 on this card. Like you call them and be like, hey, if I give you 9, can we like close this card out? And build up your credit. I went through the same thing.
Yeah.
And it was and I didn't know any of these things. I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah.
But my mentor told me, hey, you can do that. I said, what? I said, I could owe them this much and call and offer them this much and they'll take it. I said, it didn't even seem real.
Yeah.
So those were the little things that I realized that people who had a different level of knowledge than me, they had these little secrets, and it saved me thousands and thousands of dollars over the year. But once again, they didn't teach you that in school. They don't. No one ever taught me that. No one ever said that to me.
Yeah.
You know. So until I met someone like that. So when you are now positioning your kids to now grow in this world, of course, when they get to the appropriate age where they have a deeper understanding, what are some of the things that you are going to instill in them as the most important foundations of being successful in this world and in this life? What are some of the things that you know that they have to have a part of their being in order to make it, that they maybe probably wouldn't learn in traditional school?
Yeah, well, besides courage, like school doesn't teach you how to get haters. So like you, whether you like it or not, like if you are going to become really successful, like if you're going to become really wealthy, you're going to get a lot of haters.
Yeah.
Because it's just a natural process of life.
Yeah.
So like when you're moving up and you're getting more success, people are going to get jealous. And especially a lot of people that were there in the beginning when you started your business. You know, people are going to get jealous. It's going to lead into envy. Then they're going to become haters. And then eventually they'll become fanatics, and they'll be like, I used to know that person. I used to fly private with them. I used to be in their house. I used to spend a lot of time with them. And then that to me, that's they're really fans the whole time, but somewhere along the way they started getting jealous. So that's why like the Kardashians, like they get a lot of hate.
Yeah.
But it's gonna happen, and you gotta be okay with that.
Yeah.
You can't be scared of what people are gonna think about you, and you just gotta be you. Because I tried pleasing everybody, I tried being perfect, and it didn't work. People still criticized me.
Yeah.
And so now I just want to be me. I want to be happy, and I want to be real, because of me being real, I think, is the best way of helping people. So now, like the biggest thing that I want to teach my kids, besides the courage part and being okay with having some people not like you, is the biggest currency today in this planet is attention.
That's right.
You have to get attention, because it doesn't matter, Italia, if you're the most talented, if you have the best teacher, if you train the hardest, if you have the most experience, if you're the most beautiful. It doesn't matter if nobody knows you.
That's right.
So you got to get the attention, and the attention is going to get you paid. The attention is going to allow you to help a lot of people all over the world. So I started going hard with that, and that's what's worked the best for me. That's my biggest ROI, getting attention. Because remember, why do people want to make money? Because they want to trade money for time.
Yeah.
In the beginning, like poor people value money, and the rich, they value time. Yeah. So when you get attention, like there's ways to scale that. But I would tell my daughter too, like I would tell the young entrepreneurs hearing this, time is more important than value. So remember, value the time, have a lot of courage, and get as much attention as possible, because even negative attention is better than no attention.
Yeah. Yeah. No matter how you get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the things I learned. And, there's some people who are, let me say, averse to like having haters.
Yeah.
But like you said, that's going to happen. I recently, only a few weeks ago, I heard the comment by David Goggins. He said, "You're never going to have a hater that's doing better than you."
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's so true. Like it's always going to be the people who are below you that are going to be, in some negative way looking about you, speaking about you, what have you. And so that's part of it. And like you said, there's no bad press. Mm-hmm. And once you get to that level, inevitably you're going to have, that guy's a fake, this guy's that. Even at the level I'm at, I see it. I'm like, I'm just trying to be a nice guy and like share information and help people grow. Yeah. And there's people out there who will hate on you just for being that. And like, listen, I'm not even selling anything. Yeah. Like, I'm just trying to share knowledge in people. Yeah. And then you realize that there's certain elements of people in this world who that's their energy, that's their mood, and that's who they're going to be. And whatever you say, whatever you do, it's never going to change that. Right. So, and I, kind of learned to accept that. And that was one of the things that was the hardest for me, because I always try to be positive and help people, but I just realized that's something that's just not going to be a reality in this world we live in. And that's
you can't help everybody.
No,
like they need to want help.
Yeah. So what's next for you? We're getting to the end now, and What are you working on now that you're most excited about? That like the next evolution for you?
Yeah. Well, I give myself 3 more years as a CEO because I'm the CEO for all 4 companies, and my wife's the COO for all 4 companies.
Okay.
I gave myself 5 years 2 years ago.
Okay.
So I have 3 more years as a CEO,
Uh-huh.
and what I want to do in 3 years from now
Uh-huh.
is I want to sell 2 companies for a big chunk.
Okay.
So I'm gonna either do that, or I might just keep the companies and open it up for distribution. So I have a few owners that earn some equity.
Uh-huh.
So in 3 years, they're going to be making a lot of money every quarter or every month. Not sure if it's going to be quarterly or monthly,
Uh-huh.
but they might get a big payout because I plan on selling 2 companies. And
These are mortgage companies.
a mortgage company and a real estate company.
Okay.
So I plan on selling them,
Okay.
and I plan on that number being starting with a B. So like
there you go.
that is the goal for the next 3 years. And then also what I want to do is I don't know if I'll stick to this plan, but I want to I want to travel with my family all over the world. So I want to take a year off.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't know how I'm going to do that. I might just turn the plane back like in a week.
Yeah.
But I want to travel the world with my kids
Yeah.
and my wife, and obviously like with our nice private jet, go all over the world and spend time with them and see other cultures. Like I want to know the whole world. I want to learn stuff and enjoy the time with my family. And after we exit with those 2 companies, and obviously we're gonna keep a few companies, but I that's what I want to do in the next 3 years. And then I'm really I really want to focus on driven, and I want to teach people.
Yeah.
So I want to teach. That's my way of changing the world and helping the world and being a contribution to everybody
Yeah.
on this planet. Like I want to help them. I want to teach them based on all the mistakes I made. And because it's okay for them to make the little mistakes, I just don't want them to make the $1 million mistakes that I made. So that's what I want to do. I want to travel the world. I want to help people. I want to teach them the business principles that have helped me, and enjoy time with my family and go to different parts of the world.
That's beautiful. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, travel is the one thing I tell people you got to do. I know it's hard. It costs money. But when you travel the world, see how other people live, it gives you an appreciation for some of what we have. I've gone back to where my mother grew up in South India, and it always it always grounds you back to how fortunate we are here.
Yeah.
But also going to other places where they just live differently. They have different cultures. They have different things that they value, and you look at that and you say, wow, and that's something to expose your children to is priceless, because they can never get that here from a book or even a tutor. They have to kind of experience that. Yeah. They kind of got to be immersed in that. So that's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Before we go, I want you to let people know, how do they find out more about Driven number 7 coming? And I've seen the progression of Driven, and I see the slate of speakers that you've progressed through all the way through 6.
Yeah.
Do you know who's speaking at 7?
Albert Preciado.
That's one.
But I have a few speakers, but the difference is that like I build a brand. And in the beginning, I didn't have a brand.
Uh-huh.
So that's very important today, because I talked about the attention part.
Yeah.
Like in the beginning, I remember how hard it was to get speakers.
Yeah.
And I used to have to pay the speakers big fees. Now people are paying me. Now like the speakers that come here, like big, huge names, like they don't charge me a penny. Like they do it because they want to be part of the Driven movement. So it's grown so much like that.
Yeah.
But like it, I just want to bring in the right knowledge. I don't want to bring in also the same speakers all the time.
Uh-huh.
So I want to bring different knowledge. I want to bring the experts that are going to help entrepreneurs in business. So and also like every year, I hold myself accountable to become a better version of Albert. So every year I come back stronger, and I'm teaching them based on my results and my wife. So like you asked me earlier a question about the difference between Driven and other events or something like that. So like, for example, like you have the Grant Cardone, you have the Tony Robbins, and you know, they're double my age, but I feel like also they're already like at that point where like they're retired, like they have a lot of money, and they're not in the mud. Yeah. Like the difference with me is I'm in the mud every day with me and my wife. Right now, we're gonna go back to our headquarters, which is down the street from here, and we're gonna go there and we have training. We're in the mud of our business. Yeah. So we're actually doing it right now. It's kind of like a fighter that was like Mayweather when he was at his prime fighting versus Mayweather when he's 60. He's still boxing, but he's not there doing it actively. So you can't compare the both. So I think that's the difference between like driven. Like we are entrepreneurs in the mud, working that in. And also another beautiful thing that I'm very, very proud of is 80% of my following are Latino Americans.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so they're not Latinos from like Colombia or Argentina or Mexico, which I do have a lot.
Yeah.
But our audience, people that show up in person to the events, like my followers, people that work for the mortgage guys, for Ambiance Realty, we have an escrow company, Conquer Escrow, people that work, our customers and our audience that come to the events, 80% are Latino Americans, maybe even more than that, but Latino Americans, so meaning they're Colombian Americans, Mexican Americans here in the U.S.
Yeah.
So like I feel like my responsibility is to be a good example, good leader for my Latino community. So I'm very proud of being an influence for my Latino community, my Latino Americans out there. So that's the thing with Driven, and of course I want to bring the experts in every different field of business.
That's awesome. So where can people find out more about the next event?
Just Google Albert Preciado, Google Driven.
Okay.
But I would Google Albert Preciado, but the website is drivenevent.com. If they go to drivenevent.com, that's the main website. But if they Google Albert Preciado, they'll find like everything.
We're going to put the links to everything so you can find him, so you don't have to hunt for it. Links to find Albert. If people want to connect to you socially, Instagram, is that the best place? What
I like Instagram, but I'm everywhere. Like I'm on TikTok, I'm on Facebook. They're all the same handles at the Albert Preciado.
Albert, this is awesome. I feel like I have like 100 more questions. We're gonna have to do a part 2 here because we didn't even get into some of the things about lending and private lending and all this stuff because we're in the same wheelhouse. So we're gonna share that probably on a part 2.
Yeah,
but thank you so much. I'm so pumped. I'm so excited to see this Driven event going on. Driven number 7 coming up. Guys, if you guys are serious about this, look into the Driven, look at the dates for number 7, and just look at some of the speakers of the past, and you're going to probably see what this next number 7 event is going to be like. Albert, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.